pass you over to Dan.
So my name's Dan. I'm a recovered drug addict.
Hey Dan.
I introduced myself as recovered because I haven't had an attack of alcoholism today for a little while actually, and I haven't used any strategies to stop myself using. So I chose the jaywalker because I relate to it every single bit through that. But I'll come back to that. So I'll begin by just telling you a little bit about how I started using drugs and drinking. I had a normal childhood. It was just growing up normal. I didn't really want for nothing. My family looked after me. There was no real reason why I'd be an alcoholic or an addict. I started experimenting in drinking from a young age, about 14, 15. No real signs of, I could put it down when I wanted to, and might have been a bit messed up sometimes and did some silly things, but most people do when they're younger. I started going taking pills and whatever else, and I enjoyed it. That was the only reason why I used it. I enjoyed the buzz that it gave me. Slowly but surely, things started to happen, and consequences came into place. And I might wake up in the morning and have a hangover and a headache, but I could shake it off and get on with my day. It's like I say, slowly but surely, my health started deteriorating, and I started using cocaine a lot more. Midweek maybe, and started taking it at work. Started taking it at night time. And the fact that I said to myself, I'll stop at a certain time, and I'll have a sleep and start going back to work. Once it started, I found myself getting up to a certain time of the night, and I couldn't stop. So maybe I might start getting to work late and stuff like that. It come a point where I'd have firm resolutions that I won't be doing it again. Work started noticing patterns in me where I'd not turn up on a Monday, so I won't do it again. It didn't happen, and I didn't really mean it, I suppose. I tell myself I'm not going to do it again. These consequences, they're not that bad. So I started telling lies. The crowd that was around me used drugs. We had parties. It was all right, but I had a wife by this point, and she told me when we first got together, I'll finish you if you carry on using drugs. So I said to myself, well, I won't use drugs then. I like this woman. A little bit later, I was back on cocaine, nights out and stuff like that, where, I'd still lie to her, but I could put it down. The lies carried on, and she was suspicious, but, I could manage to lie my way out of these situations, and still hung around with the same crowd, and to fund my using, I thought it'd be good to start picking up bigger bits of gear that I can sell. And once I started having big bits around me, I noticed that my using got more. I had more around me. And, the money was all right for a time because I could sell some and I could use some. Longer it went on, I started using more and not really selling any. And consequence of that is I'm owing out a lot of money, thousands of pounds of, and I've got people turning up at my work. I haven't answered the phone to them because I'm scared of what's going to happen. I can't pay it back. So I tell myself I'm not going to do it this time. I might pick up this gear, but I'm going to sell it all. Same thing happened again. It was like, fuck fucking hell, man, what's going on? Yeah, I'd have people turning up at my house then, and I'd try and hide it from my missus again. She didn't have a clue what was going on. I was sneaking out early hours of the night trying to pick up or sell or whatever else. And yeah, my health started deteriorating a lot. My nose was just completely fucked. Nosebleeds, I'd blow my nose, half of it would fall out, and I'd at this point I was only trying to clear my nose to get another line up there, and I thought, this is fucking crazy. I'm in agony, I'm not sleeping, I'm turning up to work after 3 days, after a 3-day spree, and yeah, I'm falling asleep at work. I had a good paid job, and I was quite career driven, and while I'm not using, I work hard, and people started noticing at work, falling asleep at the laptop, I'm going into the toilet, I'm coming out, and I'm perky for a little bit after a quick boost in the toilet. And then I'd start falling asleep again, and this went on for a little while, making excuses why I needed to nip out, and phoning in sick because I was too scared to go to work because I'd been up all night. And again, I tell myself I'm not going to do it this time. Yet probably the very next day, I'd relapse, and I didn't know that word relapse at the time. It's only coming into Cocaine Anonymous, and it happened quite, for a good few years. I managed to hold down the job, but I wasn't really there. It came to a point where my boss heard me in the toilet using. So I come out, and he said, Dan, have you got a minute? Pulled me into a meeting room, and he said, we've got suspicions that you've been using drugs at work. And I point blank denied it. So he said, well, we're going to take you down to get a drug test. So in my head, I thought, right, someone's told me that I can clear my system and I can get it out by the next day. Because the drug test was happening the next day. So I stopped using for the afternoon, and I thought, if I do this, I'll pass the drug test. Then the point came over me. I thought, just one line after work will be all right. Up until about 3 o'clock in the morning, I was sniffing, and it was like, fucking hell, man, why am I doing this? I know I'm going to fail it. So I turned up anyway. I got to work, and they took me down to the clinic, and I was falling asleep in my boss's car, and I could see him sort of looking over at me, and he says, are you going to pass this? And I said, yes. It's going to be negative. Absurd thinking. I honestly thought I was going to pass it, and so yeah, a week later the results came in, and they pulled me in, and they put the sheet in front of me, and the results was clear as day, positive, and still tried to deny it. I said the results must be wrong. I'd already Googled medication that can cause false results. So he said, right, okay, so if you're saying that, we'll take you down and we'll do a hair follicle test, which comes back 6 months. I said, okay, I'll do that. It's wrong, definitely wrong. He said, right, I'll give you an hour, Dan, take a walk and come back and think about your answer. So I walked away, and I thought, my life was sort of crashing in front of me. My missus is going to know what's been going on, and, everything's going to come out. I came back and I broke down in tears like a scared little boy. And it was that first point where I was actually honest with someone about my using. So they let me go home early, and I rang my wife and I said, it came back positive. I don't know what happened. And she says, well, you've been using. That's clear to anyone. So that was my next firm resolution. I'm not going to do this again. There's a chance I'm going to lose my job. And, it was very likely. Gross misconduct at the workplace. So, firm resolution, I am not going to do this again. And a week went on. She came into the disciplinary, and they actually let me hand in my resignation. Because I was all right at work. They knew how I was before I had a problem. On to the next one. My family was away on holiday at the time, my mum and dad, and I got my missus to keep it a secret and not tell them. Tell them that I left work. I'd had enough, so I went self-employed. So she kept that secret. Week and a half later, I'm back on the gear as hard as I was before, and I'm lying again to her. She's finding out, she's crying, she's in tears, and I'm lying point blank, and I don't know what's going on. I really don't know. I'm baffled of what is going on in my life. I really meant it. I really meant I was going to give up for good. I was back out there relapsing. So I found myself on a big spree, 3-day drinking drugs, and it was messy. And by the Sunday, I had a seizure, right in front of my missus. She didn't know that I'd been out for 3 days. She'd been working away. She came back on the Sunday. I can't remember any of it. I'm sat there at the table. And she's having her dinner, and I come around and I'm on the sofa and there's paramedics around me, and there's police in the house, and I've just had a fit on the floor in front of my wife, and she didn't know what had happened, and I put her through that, and I've been signed off work for 4 weeks. I was hospitalised after that seizure, signed off work for 4 weeks, and I was using the whole time. I was at home, sniffing, in a state of psychosis, really, scared if anyone's going to turn up at home. I don't know who would, but, I was completely confused as to why I was doing this. There's something that was going to kill me, and I knew it was going to kill me, yet I'd still do it again. That's why I picked the jaywalker. The progressiveness of it all, it's dangerous and deadly what I was doing, yet I couldn't stop myself. My health continued to deteriorate, and I started, passing blood from all angles, and in the end, it's like my missus was coming into indoors and finding gear, finding stashes around the house. I'd be away for a day, 2 days on end, and not answer my phone, and she's worried sick. And it got to the point where one day last year, I came home, and she said, "Look, we've got to get you into rehab." I broke down again. I was in tears, and I knew I needed to do something. She phoned my mum. The very next day, they got me into a 12-step fellowship, and I was there for 30 days. And it was the first time I'd seen the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was for 30 days, and I was looking in my past, and they were telling me something you might have done in your past that caused you to be an addict. So I'm searching way back when, and I couldn't really work it out. And 30 days in, I felt good. I started feeling healthy again. I hadn't used for 30 days. I came out, and my family was all right with me. My wife was all right with me. And it was quite a happy day, I must admit. I hadn't seen him for a while. I came back and I picked up an 8 for cocaine. I thought it was all right to go and use. Something happened to me. I had a peculiar mental twist, and I know and I understand that phrase now, but I didn't know then. A peculiar mental twist, and the fact that I thought it'd be all right to go and pick up an 8 for coke after just sitting in a treatment centre for addiction. And it is a progressive illness. I did the whole 8th in a day, and relapse happened. It carried on happening. This time I'm in Cocaine Anonymous. I was introduced through the treatment centre, and I met a sponsor, and he's taken me through the steps, and I got to step 4, my personal inventory, and again I got to about 35 days or something like that, and my life again rebuilt itself. You know, I started to get trusted again, and I started to feel good. I went to another meeting, and I met a guy, and he just asked me a few questions before the meeting. We had a little chat, and he said to me, "How are you doing, Dan?" I said, "I'm good. I'm doing all right. I'm on step 4, but it's taken me 2 weeks to start." And he says, "Dan, you're going to relapse." And I point blank said, "No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm going to be all right." 2 days later, I'm back on it, I'm back using, and I've relapsed. And you know, the first thing I did was I rang him up and I said, "I've relapsed." And luckily enough, he was armed with the facts about the illness that we suffer with, and you know, we related to some of the things that's in this book. You know, relapse is the crux of the problem, and I've been told every time I came into a meeting, I picked up a white chip. People were saying to me, "Dan, what haven't you been doing? You know, you're not going to enough meetings." I was relapsing after meetings. I was using in the toilets in meetings, and all I wanted to do was stop. I just wanted to stop using. My life was crumbling around me, and I was half dead. I hadn't eaten for weeks. And so yeah, we met up with this guy, and he's now my sponsor, and we discussed some things. He sat me down and he showed me chapter 3, more about alcoholism. Yeah, before I've been reading in doctor's opinion and trying to relate to that stuff, which I don't. More about alcoholism is, you know, there's everything in there that I relate to. Yeah, so we've done it. I've got through the steps, and did the 12 steps, relapsing every now and then, and yeah, he'd still work with me. You know, he wouldn't say to me, "Dan, what, you're not doing enough, or you don't want it enough." He'd still work with me. Every time I'd relapse, we'd go through it, and step 12 comes along, and you know, I relapsed again, and in my understanding, I thought if I do the 12 steps, I won't relapse. Well, that weren't the case. I was doing them steps to prevent myself relapsing, and yeah, I relapsed quite a few more times after that. And it weren't until Boxing Day last year, I just had a perfect Christmas. I was about 75 days clean, and I spent a day with my family and my wife, and you know, it was the best Christmas that I'd had for quite a few years. I was present. The very next day, Boxing Day, I was back on my own, standing on my own in the kitchen using. Completely baffled, and it broke me this time. It completely broke me, and something happened to me, and I knew then I was doing it wrong. These steps aren't here for me to stay clean. They're here to get us into a position where we can gain a spiritual experience and be in a position where we can help others, and that is it. So yeah, I actually had that spiritual experience from that relapse, and from then on I've stayed in the experience, and I'm here tonight. I'm very grateful I'm here tonight to be able to share selflessly, and the fact that I hope someone got something and related to something I spoke about tonight. So thanks for asking me to come tonight, and I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Cheers, Dan. Thank you. I'll now open the meeting to the rest of the